Hi there. Welcome to the While You Wait podcast, where it's all about helping women just like you learn about the bladder while you're waiting for your appointment with that specialist. Each week, I'll combine science, medicine, and common sense so you can learn, become empowered, and get started on your journey to dryness. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Boyles, a board-certified urogynecologist. Let's get started. Hi there. I'm here today with Sher Palm, who is a self-declared women's health empowerment advocate, which I just love that term. And she has been busy carving a trail to destigmatize vaginal and intimate health concerns. She works to pioneer change in highly stigmatized aspects of women's healthcare. She is busy as an advocate and an activist. She is an internationally recognized speaker. She runs a nonprofit called the Association of Pelvic Organ Prolapse Support, and she is an author. Her most recent book is called The Biggest Secret in Women's Health: Stigma, Indifference, Outrage, and Optimism. I love that title. Thank you so much for being here and for talking to me today. Can you tell me how you got into this work? What made you think of
Absolutely.
it?
Yes,
How you
absolutely, Dr.
uncovered this
Boyles.
secret?
Yes, I'm. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation and for you to share it with your people. This wasn't the planned journey. Like most advocates, it found me. It found me. You know, it was one of those situations that's so common in women's health with pelvic organ prolapse. It was discovery upon diagnosis. And when I was 30, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive MS, wheelchair bound, short time frame. And I'm not in a wheelchair. I found the answers for myself. It took about 3 years, but I found the answers. And then moving forward, I was extremely proactive to maintain all aspects of my health. And to fast forward to my mid 50s, to be diagnosed with a condition I'd never heard of when I had been so proactive was unnerving. It was a little irritating. So I dug in after I was diagnosed, and lucky for me, my best friend was my PCP. And so when I discovered that bulge of tissue when I was wiping after urinating, and I got curious and I thought, what the heck is that? And I got the mirror out and took a look to see what was going on down below and saw this walnut-sized lump coming out of my vagina. I knew it couldn't be good. I wasn't scared. I wasn't really freaked out. I just knew it wasn't normal, whatever it was. So I contacted my buddy and she said, come on over, we'll do a pelvic exam. And she immediately said, well, it's pelvic organ prolapse. I'll fit you with a pessary. If you're not happy with the pessary, I can refer you to a good urogynecologist that I know. I left that office exam clueless what she had just said. It made no sense to me. I didn't know any of those terms. And that's very common in the pelvic organ prolapse space because there is so little awareness of this condition ahead of the curve. So I went home and did what most women would do, hit Dr. Google, and he filled in the blanks for me, or she filled in the blanks for me. And I was on a full out run then to find more information. I couldn't believe at that point in time, this was 2007. At that point in time, the data for prevalence was 3.3 million women in the US, which was startling to me. I couldn't believe it was so common and I had not heard of it. Now we're saying 50%, or we're seeing 50% in studies all the time. So I just kept researching over the next couple of weeks to find more information. And within those 2 weeks, I knew this was my destiny. I can't tell you how I knew that. I just knew this was, I've done a lot of had different career paths, different jobs, and so on in my life. The core, I was a farm girl. And so this was all new to me. And I was so, a lot of women are freaked out or anxious when they're diagnosed with pelvic organ prolapse. I was ticked off. I was mad. I said, this is bull. We have to do something about this. So I thought, I know, I'll write a book. And then women will know about this condition and everything will change. And boy, I was so naive. I was so incredibly naive back then. So I tried the pessary. It fit well. It worked well. However, I've always worked a 60-hour week. And adding one more thing to my morning to-do list wasn't doable for me. And so within those couple of weeks, I knew I wanted to move on to surgery just to get this fixed and off the plate. And I went and had a consult with the urogynecologist I was referred to, and she's awesome. I adore her. And when I first saw her, she did the complete exam and so on. And I had 3 types of prolapse. I was grade 3 severity, cysto, rectal, and enterocele. And she said, okay, so here's the deal, Cher. So this is in January. She says, go home, kick back over the spring, play in your flower beds, and then come fall, come see me again, and we'll discuss surgery. And I was like, tooties, no, wrong, fix me yesterday. So she said, well, if you're sure that's what you want, we'll go ahead and schedule surgery. So that's what we did. So I had surgery in February of 2008, and the rest has just been a journey. So I had all my notes from building the book before my surgery. I used my 12-week hill curve post-surgery to write the book. And then it took me between July and October to find a publisher to publish the book. So it was learning as you go. So many people go through that, it's a new path and you don't know diddly about it. So you have to pick up the pieces as you can find them. And about 15 months into marketing that first book, the light bulb came on that if I wanted to really reach women effectively and help them effectively, I should found a nonprofit. I didn't know beans about nonprofit sector. So I went off down that rabbit hole. And fortunately for me, Marquette University in Milwaukee has a great program for nonprofits. And you can apply, and if you're accepted, they help you through the process of applying for your 501c3 with the paperwork and so on. And I was accepted, and they helped me through all of that. And then I had to learn building websites and all the other stuff that comes with setting up any business really. So it's been a continual journey. And in the beginning, there was, when I was marketing the book, the first book, someone approached me from England who had prolapse, and she had a Facebook-based support forum. And she found out about me because of the book, and she contacted me and asked me if I would help administrate that forum. So I said, well, sure, I'll give it a try, So I wandered into that space and discovered how impactful the women-to-women communication is for support for this condition. And after a short time, she had surgery. The person that built this page, it was about 150 or so, I believe, women in it at that point in time. She had surgery, and she said, okay, well, I'm done. I said, well, if that's the case, would you mind if I take this space and use it for our support space for APOPS? She said, sure, go ahead. So when I changed the name of the space and I built the history, I included her name, obviously, as the original founder of it. And I wanted to make sure she was acknowledged. And then we just moved from there. And we now have over 26,000 women in that space. So and more significantly, these are women in 183 countries, women that are between the ages of late teens through end of life. So it's women, period.
And it's a Facebook group?
It's a Facebook group, right?
And
it's
so
a closed Facebook group, so only members can see the conversation inside.
Yeah. So if I was a new member and I had a recently diagnosed prolapse and I had questions, and I think, so I actually didn't realize until you told me that you offered this. And this is a question that I get asked. I mean, my patients ask me for this all the time, right? Because they trust me and they believe what I say, but they want to talk to someone who's been through it, right? They want to know what day 2 feels like, and what the rehabilitation after surgery is like, or not having surgery, or they just want to talk to someone who's been through it. So if it was me and my question was, okay, please give me my shopping list for after surgery, I could post that question and then someone would respond to me.
Members would respond, and based on the question, how it's worded, there may be a handful of people that respond. There may be 50 people that respond based on what the question is and how you phrase it. So, and typically when women first come into the space, and most of them initially just do a visual walkthrough and see how it's laid out and who's talking about what and so on. And in very short order, they discover that women talk about everything prolapse related in there. There is no question that we have not seen in that space. And so it gives them some confidence, and then they start posting their questions and it goes from there. So
if I wanted to post something anonymously, could I do that?
We don't allow that, no.
You
and
don't
we have that
it.
option with the space, but we feel that the only way to really empower women is to give them their voice, help them acknowledge their voice. And this is part of their world and part of their life. the fact that there are so many women in there, I think helps encourage them to be braver about doing so.
Yeah. So I think I know the answer to this question. And I should preface this by telling you that one of the reasons that I am a urogynecologist is because I love taking care of women, right? Like I feel like, women are just so very easy to take care of and delightful and respectful in so many different ways. But do you have to do a lot of policing in this group?
Not as much as you would think. I've got a
Yeah, I actually
very
don't think you would have to do much, but
well, I have got, I'm fortunate, I have got a team of volunteers from within the group that help monitor the space, and we do monitor it. I've got a very extensive, this makes me sound like Attila the Hun. We have a very extensive list of rules, and
yeah.
we encourage all members to read those rules when they first come in. And of course, they don't all read them, but there's things that we disallow in that space. And at the top of that list is no member to member bashing.
Yeah.
Be respectful of everyone. And we don't allow posting of links to outside
Okay.
sources, whether it's research or ads, or they can post pictures of products that they're using. That's okay. But because we cannot monitor what's being said and done in those links, we don't allow that. However, they can submit those links to a moderator who
Okay.
will review it. And if it's accepted, then it's posted with credit given back to the poster so that they can
Yeah.
get the information in there that way.
So that's great because you're really controlling the content right there and then just
Yes.
making it just a comfortable space
Right.
for people,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
even though you're empowering people, it still is a vulnerable conversation a lot of times at the beginning. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's great. I think you have to do some
Exactly.
policing.
You really do. You really do. And we've got part of the volunteer team, all their job is to just screen the posts, looking for the things that disregard the rules. And other ones, parts of the team review the requests to enter our space.
Yeah.
We have 3 initial questions that they have to answer before they come into the space. And then we do take a look at their Facebook backdrop. And if there's any questions or concerns, then they're not waived in. We do everything we can in our power to secure the environment and keep it safe for
Yeah.
our members. So,
Well, and even when people are well intentioned, lots of women have very strong opinions, right?
yes, yes,
Hysterectomy, yes, no.
yes,
Hormone
yes,
replacement, yes, no. And
yes,
to keep it comfortable for everyone, I would think you would have to have some firm ground rules, right? You
exactly,
can definitely have your
exactly.
opinion, and that's great, and you can present your opinion. But if someone doesn't share your opinion, that too needs to be
Right,
respected,
right, right.
right?
And we do, obviously, as the people that run the forum, we have the option to delete posts, delete comments, and just control the environment in general. So,
Yeah. So I have to circle back to your story because in some ways your story is very typical and in other ways it's very unique. And I think the thing that is so unique about your story is that you have a close friend who's a primary care physician who held your hand and guided you through those initial days. I mean, frequently, women feel a bulge or see a bulge. The most common thought is that it's a tumor,
right.
right? And so
Hmm.
there's a lot of fear there. And then, especially now, it takes a long time to get in to see a provider. And then, maybe you see the right provider, maybe you see the wrong provider. I recently saw someone who had a stage 4 prolapse and I think she saw 3 providers before she saw me, and nobody had examined her.
Oh my goodness. And
Right.
see,
So
those are the
she
stories that are horrible,
Right.
horrible.
So your way was very eased in a lot
Hmm.
of ways,
Hmm.
and yet you had such a strong reaction to everything.
Yes, and that's just because I'm a busy person. It's like I just don't want to deal with the whole. We'll try this first, and then we'll try this, and then maybe we'll try. No, just fix it. And I'm not pro surgery. I'm not saying we need to go out and get that stuff fixed and be done with it. It doesn't work for everybody. I truly respect women's needs are very unique. We have women obviously who never want surgery, and
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. Whatever is the right fit for you is the right fit. And because we have such a blend in our space, it really encourages women to follow their own path.
Yeah.
There's no, if you have surgery, you're out of your mind, or if you just use a pest for the rest of your life, you're out of, there's none of that stuff that goes on in our space. It's all like, well, everyone has their own, it's your
Yeah.
body, it's your choice. That's it.
Well, and I think that's where it's important to have so many people, right? Because I would tell you when I talk to women about their prolapse, I always start with, conservative treatment leading up to
Mm-hmm.
surgery. But in a lot of ways, it's almost a personality type right? And I
Right,
can
right.
recognize the personality type when they come into the office. I'm usually pretty sure of what, that person's going to pick because there are
Mhm.
people like yourselves, right, who are hard drivers and who are, going to the finish line. And I think
Right.
it's important for you to have all of the information. But yeah, they're gonna lead to surgery, right? Physical
And that
therapy and pessary
right.
just aren't.
And that makes me reflect on something else that my Eurogyne said to me. And because that is my personality type, before surgery, when we were going through that pre-surgical consult, she says, 12-week heel curve. I know your type. No exercising for 12 weeks. Back off. I'm like, okay, got it, got it. I'll be good. I'll be good.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
and it's
funny.
funny, I've been in practice for a long time, and when I first started, we did a lot of surgeries through open incisions. And when you did a surgery through an open incision, you could be pretty liberal about what you said to patients because they were uncomfortable. And so it was
Hmm.
really hard to exercise for 6 to 8
Yeah.
weeks. But now that we do everything vaginally or minimally invasively, people feel pretty good pretty quickly. And so, those conversations become a lot more extensive. I mean, there is more and more data that you can do some exercise and some activity, right? But it's hard to know exactly
Exactly
what
what, and
sometimes.
because women's bodies are so different, and we have
Yeah.
a significant number of women with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in our space,
Oh,
and that predisposes them obviously to surgical failure, just like their tissue is failing, even if they don't have surgery. So we have a lot of discussions in that forum about exercise. And of course, we have women that are marathon runners that come in,
yeah.
and runners love to run. They love to run. It's the endorphin kick, and they're addicted. I'm an exercise junkie myself, obviously, and I recognize that urge for fitness. But I also know that woman to woman, how you address post-surgical space is unique, and you have to look at all of the layers.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to tell people not to exercise than to tell them
Mhm.
how to exercise correctly,
Right, right.
right? And
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah,
kind of the rub. But then at the same time, I think as practitioners, we have to recognize why women exercise. So I have so many patients who need to exercise because that's how they control their mental health.
right.
That's how, they manage their lives. And when you remove that, it becomes a very uncomfortable space for them, right?
Hmm.
And so,
Hmm.
what can we get you to do? Because my saying to you, you can't do anything for 6 to 8 weeks is
Yeah,
torture,
yeah,
right? And
exactly. Yeah,
and bad for you and bad for the family, right? Kind of
right.
bad for everybody around you.
Yeah,
So I love this space, and I think this is what so many people need, right? They want a buddy, right? They want a companion, a mentor to help them along this journey. And I think a lot of women want someone who can say, it's going to be okay, right?
right,
Like
right. Hmm.
this is okay. Even if it's not perfect, it's going to be okay. And
Right.
these are the things that you can expect. What else do you think we need to do?
Well, it's important that women educate themselves. First of all, we have to increase the awareness of prolapse across the board globally. It's a big, big deal that vaginal health is so censored now in social media and on Google. It's very, very frustrating. Women need to know this stuff, and it's unsettling that despite public examinations, POP is not effectively screened in a standardized way to increase not just the awareness, but diagnostics. Women, the most common question we get in our space is, why wasn't I informed of or screened for pelvic organ prolapse sooner? We hear that all the time. And so there needs to be an across the board acknowledgement and shift in protocol. And I don't know what it'll take to get to that page, but women need to understand that there's physical, emotional, social, sexual fitness, and employment quality of life impacts here. And all of those layers are unique to each woman, and all of those layers don't impact each woman. Each woman's a little bit different in how prolapse occurs to her. So it's extremely variable. And I think the substructure of all of it is that impact of self-esteem. And that's the biggest ticket we have to think about and consider when we're directing women on what to do and where to go and how to address this. So whatever it takes to help shore up women's self-esteem is the pivot point.
Yeah.
And coming into that form is maybe a base step. Educating themselves about prolapse is a base step, and there's tons of tools on APOPS website for doing that. And even just picking up a copy of that book, and when they can't afford to buy a book, can print off a PDF off of the book page on the website, take that to their local library, ask the library to bring the book in, they can read it for free. So there's access to the information. It's just a matter of continually, women are not aware of it until they're diagnosed. And that is the big
It
roadblock.
so, in the UK and in other countries, they're starting to advocate for teaching teens about the pelvic floor, right, and
Mm-hmm.
Kegel exercises. So, do you
Mm-hmm.
think we should start that young?
I do think it's important to have a basic understanding of the pelvic floor. I don't know how deeply we need to go into pelvic organ prolapse, but because there are so many vaginal health conditions, I think it's really of value to
Yeah.
enable women to have a dialogue about the
Yeah.
vagina and the pelvic floor.
I
And
mean,
that's
I
a good way to
think
start it.
basic anatomy and function. I mean, I agree. I think prolapse is kind of it's a little bit of a terrifying thing. I mean, we don't talk about hernias to teens, but I don't know why
Right,
we would talk about prolapse either. But I think becoming more comfortable with the anatomy is kind of the big thing.
right, right.
One of the things that amazed me as I transitioned from my residency, and I would tell you that I feel like I was a very trained, well-trained resident. I feel like I went to an excellent, excellent program. But as I transitioned from my residency to my fellowship in urogynecology, I felt like I looked at the female pelvis so very differently than I ever had before, right? And it was a much more kind of functional view of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also some education that needs to be done. I see a lot of patients who are frustrated because prolapse has been missed in the past. And one of the reasons for that is if you don't tell me to look for it, the way we're taught to examine, you'll miss it, right? Because you're doing a
Mm-hmm.
speculum exam, you're looking for the cervix, and you're pushing everything up, right? And so you're not going to see the prolapse, and prolapse
Mm-hmm.
hides.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. And we do advise our women who have got pronounced prolapse symptoms who go to their gynecologist and then are told it's not that bad, go home, do your Kegels, come back and see me in a year, to request to be screened standing up, because it
Yeah.
changes the whole picture.
Hmm.
It's totally different then. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I don't always examine patients standing up, but I do always examine patients standing up if their symptoms in my exam don't
mhm,
match,
right, right.
right?
Hmm.
And
That's awesome.
I mean, sometimes there are other things that feel like prolapse and aren't prolapse, right? But
Hmm.
most of
Hmm.
the time, it just means I'm not looking carefully enough. And
Hmm.
I mean, and
And
sometimes I've even had to send people away and say, okay, I need you to come back at the end of the day. I need you to have a super busy day. I need you to run. I need you
right.
to lift, and then come
See,
back and I'll examine you.
that is a huge deal, the whole end of day thing. And we do encourage women. We've got a POP risk factor questionnaire and a self screening bit of information. And we tell them to self screen at the end of the day. Go in the bathroom, lock the door, turn off the world for 5 minutes, get that handheld mirror out at the end of your normal day, whatever your normal day is,
Mhm.
and do the visual. And women don't look at their vagina.
No.
I mean, we don't look at our vaginas. We're taught from little on that it's private, it's personal, and it's not anything you should be talking about or whatever. And that kind of carries through into adulthood. And so we just don't think about it.
Yeah.
And I certainly never looked at mine until I felt that lump down there. So,
Well, and I think that's a problem, right? Because then you don't know if
mhm,
something's different or something
right.
is wrong because you don't have a baseline,
Exactly.
right?
And not just prolapse, but multiple kinds of conditions that
Mhm.
occur in that area. So,
So what do you think we need to do next from an advocacy standpoint?
well, we do everything we can to bang the drum. It's so important for urogynecologists like yourself to do what you can in your local area to broadcast information. You check out your local radio stations, your local newspapers, and see if anyone's interested in having doing an interview with you about the topic, to get it out there more openly and more comfortably publicly. I'm guessing that there are newspaper and magazine reporters and journalists who have a picture on a dartboard on their wall of my face because I poke them so much. Write about this now, write about this now, write about this. Just trying to get more information out there. And it's hard to get them to tag in when we're talking about a topic that, honestly, the vaginal health topic is still just so stigmatized. So, I mean, it's gotten better. It's certainly better than it was when I started this, I founded APOPS in 2010. And it's certainly better now than it was back then, but it's not good yet. And
No.
so we do everything that we can to shift the dynamic. This year, we're trying something different behind APOPS curtain. APOPS is building our first Women's Pelvic Health Expo. It's a 2-day expo, and there'll be plenary sessions put on by practitioners. There's each day we'll have 2 lunch symposiums, one's surgical, one's non-surgical, and the attendees can choose either one. And hopefully a robust industry space so that women can actually touch and feel and ask questions of the companies that develop and have product of value to not just prolapse, but women's vaginal health in general. And so the vision is for this is to be an ongoing an annual thing. And proof will be in the pudding how it flies. But we're not only approaching women, patients, we're also encouraging multiple fields of medical practice that provide public exams to attend as well. So whereas we get complaints, over the years we've gotten complaints from our patient following that they can't attend the conferences. They can't go there to learn. As I do when I go to conference, I'll come back and I'll share, or throughout the conference, when I come back, I share information about what I learned. And they, well, can I attend this conference? Can I attend? And it's like, well, no, you're not. You can't. You're not practitioners. But they want the information, and you'd be surprised at how many women in our space actually look up research. It's significant. So we're trying to think of unique ways to kind of change the status quo.
So are you doing, is it an in-person conference or is it virtual?
Yes, both.
It's going to be both.
Right. We're in live and virtual both. So we're capping attendance at 250. It's our first year. We don't want to get crazy. And hopefully we'll fill all the seats.
I think you should get crazy.
If I'm having a heart attack now. I can't imagine if I went wide open. I know a lot of amazing practitioners, and we're not just going to talk about prolapse. It's going to be obviously prolapse intense, but we're also going to cover other vaginal health topics as well. Yeah. So it'll encourage women, like you were saying, the controversial topics like hysterectomy, those kinds of topics, having someone there speaking on that about, well, for example, there's someone coming to speak that will be talking about the FemSelects tool for tacking the uterus up. Yeah. So we're trying to just be open-minded about this and cover it from different angles, and not just prolapse, but vaginal health in general.
So I'm sure you've thought about this, but have you thought about doing any of the debates? You know how they do that at conferences sometimes, where they have one person with this side and one person with that side? Just because it's more interesting to sit there and watch and kind of listen to that.
It is, and I get a kick out of, I love those at conference, and I get a kick out of watching when I know both practitioners and I know their stance, and they're not speaking on their stance. They're just speaking on this because they have to. I thought about that, and I can't remember now which topic it was. Was it the hysterectomy topic? I had thought about doing that on, and then I thought, you know what? Again, first year, make this easy on yourself, and you can always modify it next year, so go from there. Yeah. So I'm trying to be common sense, and it's killing me. It's killing me. So.
Well, I just want to thank you for all the work that you do. When I see patients in the office, they've been dealing with this for a while. They're ready to talk about it. And, that practitioner-patient relationship is amazing, but you're filling in something that people really, really want and really need, right? And I just think that's so amazing.
Oh, thank you. And it is important, I think, to recognize that advocacy stands alone. It's your practitioners' jobs to fix bodies. I have so much respect for practitioners. I can't even begin to imagine doing surgery. It just would scare the living bejesus out of me. It really would. And it's so valuable and so priceless. And you don't have time, no matter how compassionate a practitioner is, a surgeon is, a urogynecologist is, you don't have time to completely cover the support angle. And that's what advocacy is for. That's what nonprofits do. So I think it's a great synergy, and it's a great tag team, bringing all the silos side by side and opening up the doors between the silos, and we all do what we can do. And it's kind of like, I visualize it as a wagon wheel, and APOPS is the hub of the wagon wheel. And we intersect with patients and practitioners and research and academia, industry, to a little extent policy, not real deep into that yet, but we're working on it. And we all share information with each other on those individual rungs of that wagon wheel. And that's what moves the needle forward. Yeah. So everybody's valuable.
And I have to tell you that I take your challenge to heart because I do kind of wait for people to come to me and talk to me about their pelvic floor issues,
Hmm.
right? I mean, I do my podcast, but I'm not necessarily going to radio stations or, talking as loudly as I should.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Whether it's podcasts or a regular traditional radio interviews, or which do they even have those anymore? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either,
But
but
yeah, newspapers and magazines and so on. And even just if you see anything, like I have my Google alerts set up for multiple different topics tied to POP. And so I get to review them every morning. And if I see an article in a magazine or a newspaper that strikes me, pro or con, I'll see if there's a way I can respond to it and get more information out that way too, to
yeah,
try and create more additional awareness about the topic that's being discussed. So there's a lot of things that can be done to kind of
yeah.
lift the
Well, and
veil.
just increasing the conversation, right, is so
Right,
important.
right,
So,
right.
well, best of luck to you. I can't wait to hear about your conference. If I'm sure
Thank
you
you.
have it all planned out. If you need help next year, just let me know. I'd be happy to help out if I can in any way.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds great. And you never know. I don't have all my slots all filled in yet. I'm not quite sure. You never know. I might contact you yet for this year. So,
Just let me know. I would be
okay.
happy to help. So,
Sounds great. Thank you
all
so
right.
much for your time. I hugely appreciate the opportunity here. I
Yeah,
really
no,
do.
thank you so much. Thanks for listening. If you want more information about me or my online work, check out my website at www.thewomensbladderdoctor.com.